Hello, everybody, and welcome. I am Bricker Boom, and it's time for another installment of Pokemon by Daylight. And as said, we're starting to run a little bit low on killers because that's what we've been working on for so many months. So, what we're going to go ahead and do tonight is cover the Twins, the Legion, and the Trickster. So, as always, we're going to go ahead and cover the backstory, a couple sound bits here and there of stuff that we talked about in between, and we'll go ahead and get started with the twins first. Let's dive into the backstory. So, I went to Menards, as you all know, and I picked up paint. And the woman that I was saying, yeah, the room's gonna end up being black and red. This is the color that I want. And I don't know if she just kind of forgot that this was a grown ass man talking to her because she goes, "Oh, is this gonna be for your toy room?" I'm like, I want to be offended. However, I build Legos on stream, so yes.
Alright, which one should we do first? You want to do twins?
Sure, that was my main for a little while.
Aw. That's so cute. And the ending part of it's a little funny.
Oh, but how Victor's actually dead?
Yeah.
What? Spoilers!
Yeah, he's not alive.
Spoiler alert!
Yeah. Victor also has a third eye, if you never noticed.
What? No.
He's like Maurice Jr.
Where?
It's it's right above his right eye, I believe.
Oh!
I'm loading DVD now to look at it because I don't remember.
Yeah, that sure is a third eye.
Oh my god, a cookie! A pair of conjoined twins, Charlotte and Victor Deshays, formed an emotional bond like no other. The unlikeliness of their successful birth in the 17th century could be described as miraculous, yet it immediately brought about their life of persecution. The twins emerged with Victor's lower body affixed to the chest of his sister, legs twisted around her muscles and organs. He was smaller than Charlotte, grown as if he were an appendage of her body rather than a fully formed boy. As the newborn screeched, so too did the midwife who delivered them, running from the home yelling of a demon birthed by a witch. So began the years-long hunting of Charlotte, Victor, and their mother Madeline. Eventually they were found. Madeline was declared guilty of witchcraft, the evidence being her own children. The twins were forced by the hunting party to watch their mother burn alive, shackled to a tree, the flames leaping up her body, charring and sizzling her flesh. Caged and transported by the witch hunters to an old wooden temple, the twins were sold to a secretive group clad in dark cloaks. For a long time, the twins were exposed to horrible experiments and rituals by this cult. When the final experiment was planned, Charlotte made the decision to fight back. Rolling onto her side, shifting her little brother off of the altar in the center of the temple. With a screech, he reached his little arms as far as he could, knocking the candle. Oh my god, this is a word.
Candelabra?
Candelabra. Okay, Lumiere. Knocking Lumiere to the ground. The flames took to the dry wood immediately. Screams of agony pierced the chaos as the flames consumed the cult, invigorating Charlotte. She dashed through the inferno, vision concealed with nothing but black smoke and blazing flames. A painful heaviness filled her lungs. She fell to her knees, suffocating, and then saw it. Sunlight and trees. She stumbled from the fire into dewy grass. Without looking back, she ran into the forest until she collapsed. When Charlotte opened her eyes, she reached for Victor's hand. He made no attempt to budge. His body hung helplessly from her torso. She clasped his face, stared into his sad, still eyes. The movements she was accustomed to, his body pulling at her skin, his legs prodding into the cavity in her chest, were no more. Victor was dead. Charlotte had no choice but to continue moving as she mourned, fearing black cloaks and witch hunters were prowling. She concealed her brother's corpse under her clothing and marched for the sewers of a nearby city. Throughout the years, Victor's corpse rotted as his limbs oozed and blackened, yet his body demonstrated resistance to complete decomposition, as if his sister's blood still coursed through him. Protecting his lifeless body became Charlotte's sole reason for being, refusing to ever be separated from the only family she had left. For years, Charlotte fled, drawing blood out of necessity, cradling her long-dead brother in the night. During a frigid winter, her body began to break down. Sickle in hand, she sheltered near her campfire in the woods, not knowing if the black cloaks would take her before the cold did. Charlie felt Charlie? Charlie. Oh, that's a cute name though. Oh my. Okay, right.
It's a
Here we go.
Neopleurodon, Charlie.
Charlie felt something that she never experienced. Acceptance. She closed her eyes, opening herself to the serenity of death when a shriek, shrill and vicious, pierced her ears. Victor spasmed and flailed from her chest, a cloud of fog encompassing him. Before she could react, he spilled from her in a bloody puddle, landing into the snow and running. Pulling himself from the edge of death, she gave chase. Calling his name, she ran through the forest until her legs could no longer carry her, until finally within her view was Victor, sitting at the edge of the thick fog. His face, twisted and feral, screamed as a dark hooded figure emerged from the fog, grabbed his arm, and seized him. The serenity that had crept into Charlotte was extinguished, replaced with the seething hatred and rage she had depended on for so long. With a tight grip on her sickle, she charged into the fog, prepared to eviscerate any who set foot near her little brother. So cute. Go on. Okay, the twins are a cooperative pair of killers, able to divide and hunt together using their power, Blood Bond. Their perks allow them to monitor survivors' actions, impede their progress, and hunt more effectively. Charlotte can unleash Victor, falling dormant until she is finished hunting. Victor moves at high speeds and strikes with a pounce attack that words are so fucking hard today. A pounce attack that debilitates and injures. Down survivors with Victor and hook them with Charlotte as an oppressive tandem that can quickly disrupt even the best laid plans.
So, with the twins' backstory out of the way, I think that we came up with a pretty solid team. So, we have Magneton due to the fact that it can separate and come back together. You see that more often in things like Pokemon Stadium, where they gave the Pokemon a lot of personalities and a little bit of Pokemon Snap. Dodrio, due to the fact that it seems to share the same brain and body. Tyrogue, because even though it's small, it can't be ignored and will straight up attack you if it feels you are not giving it attention. Inteleon, due to the accuracy needed for its shots to be able to hit somebody, you have to be very accurate when you're playing as Victor to be able to pounce on somebody. Garchomp, because its dex entry states it will not allow prey to escape. And then finally, Riolu, due to its fighting spirit. So for the twins team, we came up with Magneton, Dodrio, Tyrogue, Inteleon, Garchomp, and Riolu. So, with the twins out of the way, we are going to go ahead and cover the Legion next.
Susie's adorable, and you're going to cry when you read her stuff.
Oh my god, this backstory is so feckin' long!
Frank Morrison was 19 and had little to show for it. He stopped attending school after being kicked out of the basketball team for shoving a referee into the stands. Yet Frank was a man of potential, who could light up a room despite his bleak childhood. At 6 years old, he'd been taken away from Calgary to start a circuit of foster homes. No matter how many times he lashed out, threw tantrums, and got into fights, they kept moving him to new, unfamiliar homes. Last move had been 3 years prior to when his foster... Oh god, words are so hard today. His last move had been 3 years prior when his last foster dad, Clive Andrews, had picked him up from the adoption center. They'd been on the road for 7 hours before reaching a small bungalow in Ormond. It would have been the longest time they'd spent together. Clive was too busy trading checks from the family services for drinks at the bar. Ormond was a small, stale place. A remote town of 6,000 inhabitants where gray winters drag on for most of the year. Frank did everything he could to get into another adoptive family, but changed his mind when he caught the attention of Julie, a beautiful girl who was convinced that she deserved better than a life in Ormond, and Frank, as an outsider, was her ticket out. Frank attended the party she threw where everyone was younger than him and easily impressed, which he liked. He met the impulsive Joey, who liked to show off, and the shy, naive Susie, who was Julie's best friend. They would hang out at the abandoned lodge up at Mount Ormond. Their time together was the perfect break from the boring conformity of their small, insignificant, everyday lives. Frank saw it as an opportunity to shake their lack of experience into something powerful. He lined up nights of debauchery and rampage, testing their limits. bullying, vandalism, and theft were essentially their weekend plans. It came to a point where they would do anything he asked. Nothing was off limits when they put their masks on. One evening, Frank dared Joey to vandalize the store that had recently fired him. They snuck inside easily enough, as the building was supposed to be empty after closing hours. But a cleaner, who was still there, grabbed Julie as soon as she came near. Hearing her stifled cries, a dark impulse took over Frank. He rushed to her aid, knife in hand, and without hesitating planted the blade into the cleaner's neck. As the group stared at Frank in shock, he ordered them to finish the job. Joey clenched his jaw, grabbed the knife, and stabbed the bleeding man in the ribs. Susie didn't want to do it. Frank shouted at her. They had to finish what they started. Julie closed her eyes and slid the knife into the man's chest. She handed the wet blade to Susie. They were all in this together now. Susie stared at Julie in disbelief as Frank grabbed her trembling hands and inserted the knife deep into the man's throat. Frank told them to move fast. They mopped the blood off the floor, stashed the body in the trunk of Joey's car, and drove up to Mount Ormond. All four were digging in the muddy snow to dispose of the body when Frank spotted something moving through the woods. Spoiler alert, it's the survivor Jeff. He grabbed, he grabbed his knife and broke from the group to check it out. The fog thickened around Frank, becoming so dense that he soon could no longer see ahead. He retraced his steps and stumbled onto an yep. He retraced his steps and stumbled onto an onomatopoeia trail. That's it. I'm going to the next one.
Anonymous? Anonymous?
You mean ominous?
Ominous. Ominous.
Way to go, champ. He followed that eerie path as called by the darkness. Julie, Susie, and Joey finished digging, but Frank was nowhere to be seen. Julie spotted his muddy footprints in the snow, and the three of them followed the trail, which took them deeper into the woods. When Julie, Susie, and Joey did not return home that night, their parents thought they'd run away to be with Frank. Each family came up with a different theory. The mood of the town changed, however, when a body was found at an abandoned lodge up at Mount Ormond. The Legion are a band of merciless killers, able to rush down helpless survivors with their power, feral frenzy. Attacks made during their frenzy inflict lingering internal damage, downing any survivor that are not quick enough to react. Their perks give them the ability to locate their prey and attack savagely while transporting survivors to the hook.
With the Legion, we decided to go ahead and go with Luxray, due to the Dex entry stating that it likes to form packs and one male becomes the leader. Meowscarada, because it wears a mask over its face. Phalanx, due to it being 6 things all rolled into one. Audino, due to Susie being more of a gentle person and forced to kill, Audino is a gentle Pokemon, and we even see it assist Nurse Joy on multiple occasions in the anime. Durant, due to it working together with others. And then finally, Wishy-Washy, due to traveling in schools and forming together, and if you remember the Gen 7 Alola trial, you have to fight it as one unit, and we thought that this team worked well. So with that being said, Legion's full team would be Luxray, Meowscarada, Phalanx, Audino, Durant, and Wishy-Washy. But also,
who's next?
For the Trickster, Trickster is next.
Yeah.
Jigglypuff.
What?
Oh my god, I've never had the Trickster's, like, music playing in the bio.
Oh,
like,
it's beautiful.
It's kind of cool.
I'm ready to go ahead and just kind of get down to clown with the Damn,
yeah,
Trickster.
just be warned that all of his music has dead people in it.
Oh.
Ji-Woon Hawk thrived under the attention of others, energized by every eye that watched him and every tongue that spoke his name. After years showcasing his abilities to nobodies at the talent shows, he hit the track to stardom. Yoonjin Lee, a producer at Mighty One Entertainment, recruited Ji-Woon into her training program. He transferred to a dormitory in Seoul. I was close. Where, for 14 hours a day, he was crafted into a star, taught how to move and sing, how to carry himself with the right balance of confidence and modesty. Draining as the process was, it worked. Yoonjin selected Ji-Woo to join the band No Spin. Fame was almost immediate. Ji-Woo lived in a daze of interviews and adoration. And though the frenzied schedule exhausted his bandmates, he was invigorated. After a lengthy lunch break, he returned to the studio to discover fate had granted him a gift. The scent of burning wires was unmistakable. He rushed to the control room, finding the door blocked by fallen speakers. On the other side, his bandmates pounded on the door, their cries accompanied with the crackling of flames. Ji-woon called to them, dashing to the speakers, grabbing one and stopping. He froze. Each breath was a conscious, deliberate process requiring all of his attention, the nearby cries hardly audible until slowly he backed away. And then he heard it. They were screaming his name as they burned, screaming for him to save them. Ji-woon! Ji-woon! It was the most beautiful thing he'd ever heard. When the fire crew arrived, his tears were genuine. Ji-woon was celebrated as a tragic figure, a hero who did all he could in a futile attempt to save his friends. Yoon-jin paraded him around through interviews until it was time to rebrand. He was reborn as the Trickster, a solo artist who produced his own songs, sporting a soft heart beneath a wild exterior. But away from concert setups and television stages, something darker grew. He targeted those that lived alone, coming to them in the night. Victims had to be abducted, driven to an abandoned building where he could let their voices carry unrestrained emotion. He made music from them, prodding them in the right places to evoke different types of shrieks and howls. Stabbing deep into the lower back elicited a long guttural wail, while slashing the carotid artery created a sound that sounded like a cat being strangled. How the f did they figure that out?
What?
It's so gross. Anyway, there was honesty in their suffering. Ji-woon recorded each session, synthesizing and working them into his songs, hiding them behind layers of melodies. He was elated with his work. He left hints for police, arranging a mink boa from a recent photo shoot around a victim's slashed throat. For his next killing, he removed the teeth from a man that a boxer in one of his music videos was missing. During a particularly audacious plea for attention, he killed a fan he had met during a VIP meetup, replacing her eyes with his diamond cufflinks and writing, "I have seen God," in blood written across her chest. Each scene was a dazzling spectacle. Okay, this is where it gets good, right? His music career took a hit, though, when board members rejected his latest pieces, with the exception of Yoon-jin, who came to his defense. The board members gave him one last performance to change their minds. What they didn't know was they would become the last performance. Ji-woon sedated the board members and binded them, pausing only when he came to Yoon-jin, the woman who had plucked him from a mud hole and set him on the path he deserved. She would be rewarded, granted special access to the coming display of wonder. Even under sedation, she fought, a storm raging within her, far stronger than the others. He propped her up as the lone audience member, prying her eyes open. The others, sniveling and sobbing, were brought up on stage to perform their final act. The performance had begun. With the toss of his throwing knife, the final human instrument fell silent and the music stopped. Covered in sweat and blood, an exhausted Ji-woon looked to Yoon-jin and bowed. Curtain call. He had attained perfection. With blade in hand, he made his way to Yoon-jin, prepared to tie up any loose ends before the credits rolled. But as he reached her, the fog. From where he did not know, but it billowed around them, damp, cool, comfortable. He saw the grand stage, hospitals and temples, forests and slaughterhouses, an eternal plain adorned with rusted hooks, sustained by the million eyes that would watch him, run from him, experience him. All he had to do was accept, become an implement of the fog, and most importantly, make them scream. Encore!
So, with the Trickster's team, we decided to go ahead and give him Firo, due to its text entry talking about its magnificent wings and its fury attack, much like the Showtime, where he's rapid throwing the knives like Vax and Vox Machina. Primarina, due to its love to sing and put on a song for its audience. Exploud, due to it being a song-based Pokemon and sounds, it made sense, especially due to the fact that the Trickster, while in his performances, liked to add different things, while they were mostly human screams, to his songs. Chatot, due to it being able to mimic every sound, including, I would say, the screams that he has heard in the past. Salazzle, due to it using poison and alluring movements, turning people into loyal servants, much like we have seen many people fall for these pop stars and pop idols and follow them to the ends of the earth. And then finally, Gorgeist, due to its dex entries stating that it wails much like the victims in the Trickster's music. So with that being said, the Trickster's team would be Firo, Primarina, Exploud, Chatot, Salazzle, and Gorgeist. And with that, that is another Pokemon by Daylight in the books. We have, depending on how announcements go, we may have the Singularity by next time available, so if so, we will continue with the last 3 killers, which is Pinhead, the Cannibal, and the Singularity. If not, we'll be covering Yunjin, since Yunjin is one of the survivors that had access to the killer while he was doing his thing. It's an easy way to be able to bridge into the survivor side, but I'll be sure to go ahead and keep you updated. And as always, if you like the video, even if you didn't like the video, hit the like and subscribe button because it really does help me out. And until next time, everybody, peace out.